Hello friends, welcome back to another video. This is kind of weird because I'm filming at a park and there definitely are people here, so I probably look insane, but I do not care because today is a massive day. It is a Friday for me and it's actually a holiday. I have a bit of a long weekend, a extra long weekend, and I'm going to my parents' later today to stay the weekend, and I decided to get a little dressed up and come to the park and read my last Jane Austen book. So if you've been following me for a while, you know that this summer was, or is, I should say, the summer of Jane Austen. It is the summer in which I've decided to read all of Jane Austen's works. I have done a video on all of the books previously, so check them out. I will link them down below. And this is my last one, and it's bittersweet. I'm excited, but I am also a little bit sad because I will not have another Jane Austen to read after this. It's really windy. I hope you can hear me. We'll see. I have intentionally saved Emma for the last because Emma's a lot of people's favorites. This is definitely a favorite of people who have read all of Jane Austen's works, so I am super excited. So far, I have just been able to get through the introduction of this edition. This is the Folio Society edition, and it is absolutely beautiful. I have Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice in a hardcover book set, and I just love these editions so much. I love the covers, I love the font, I love the images throughout. The introduction was really funny. I feel like he hates Emma. It was a little intense. It was a bit of a character analysis of Emma and basically calling her spoiled, and that may be true, but it was just really harsh. It was really funny. It was a bit startling, to be honest, to read an introduction on the main character of the book and just have the man basically say that he doesn't like her. Oh well. And I flipped through and I read the first sentence of the book. As you know, with this series, I don't intentionally put a lot of weight in the first sentences of books, but with Jane Austen it's kind of hard not to, because some of them have been amazing and then others have been a little bit exposition heavy, I should say. This one feels very much like a character-driven introduction. We are introduced to Emma right away and I really get good vibes from it, so we shall see. I think I am going to keep reading. I'm going to enjoy my delicious coffee and just keep going with it. So wherever you are, I hope you are cozy. If not, get cozy and let's read the last Jane Austen book in this series. Let's talk Emma. Good, make sure you're good. All right, let's update. I am trying to not update as much in this one just because I feel like this is a long book and this could turn into like a super long video as a result. So I'm gonna try to only update like maybe once every third of a book, I think. Right now I'm on page 148, which is chapter 5, and so much has happened. Oh my goodness, it actually could have just already been a book already. There is a lot of action that has happened, and I think first and foremost, let's say that I am really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying this book. I feel like I went in with really high expectations. I know that Emma is a lot of people's favorite book. I feel like Emma, the character, is controversial in the sense of like, you either hate her or you love her. I am finding it really difficult to not like her. I realize that I said at the beginning that I don't know a lot about Emma in terms of the plot, but I grew up watching Clueless and I've watched Clueless so many times, and I realized partway through reading this that Clueless is inspired by Emma, and I was surprised at how closely the plot actually follows. So I do know what's going to happen, and I did know what was going to happen because, oh my gosh, so much has happened. I'm going to start off with a very brief overview of everything that has gone down in the first 148 pages. We meet Emma, and Emma is just off of a very successful matchmaking project wherein she essentially lays claim that she matched her dear friend and another man, and they got married, and she is very, very happy about herself, and she is keen to look for another matchmaking project but doesn't explicitly say that. Her really good friend and family friend, Mr. Knightley, cautions her, actually he cautions her a bunch of times throughout this, that she shouldn't be so preoccupied with other people's business, and of course she completely ignores him. We meet Harriet, who is a rather not dull, she's a little, I don't want to use the word stupid or dense or anything, but she is a little bit of a naive individual, and she very much likes Emma, and you can see that she emulates Emma in a lot of the conversations, and she really looks up to her, and Emma kind of sets her eyes on getting a match for Harriet, and Harriet actually already has someone of interest, and his name is Mr. Martin, and she tells Emma all about him and how she really enjoys his company. He's really kind, and he went out and fetched walnuts for her because she really likes walnuts. Emma does not like this. Emma has her eye on someone else for Harriet, someone that she had previously decided that she needed to find a match for, and that is Mr. Elton, which I realize now is the guy's name in Clueless. So she constructs a bunch of opportunities for the two to meet, and Mr. Elton seems to be game for this. However, it is very quickly discovered that Mr. Elton likes Emma and has absolutely zero interest in her friend Harriet, because Harriet is quite low in society. Actually, no one really knows where she is in society because she has a very little family history. But Mr. Elton is not interested in her. He actually loves Emma, and this all came to be within the last couple chapters, and it was so much fun to read this because you can actually like pick up all of the subtleties where he is very clearly interested in Emma and not so much Harriet, but Emma just is a one-track mind. So that is the basic plot that has happened, and that is a lot actually. Like I said, it could have been like an entire book already. And now there is a very mysterious man who everyone wants to meet, who says he is coming to society. And so far we haven't met him, and I have a feeling that he is going to be a person of interest to Emma, because Emma has declared that she is not interested in marrying. She's said that many times throughout the book, but she does say that if she were to marry a man, it would be a man like this mysterious guest, Mr. Frank Churchill. The only other thing that I kind of want to talk about is Emma and Mr. Knightley, because I really, really enjoy their dynamic. I know that Mr. Knightley is, I think, 16 years older than Emma. We're just going to put that in the little back burner of like so many problematic things that I've discovered with Jane Austen's romantic interests. I know it was very common back in the day, but doesn't make it right, doesn't make it okay for now, makes it a little bit hard to root. Now, if you ignore that, I adore Mr. Knightley. I think that he is perfect for Emma. You can see it right away. He's the only person that doesn't let her get away with everything. And she is quite spoiled. I think I understand why people don't like Emma, but I feel like Emma is just driven by her own determination and not unkind. I think I would be less likely to root for her if I found she was unkind. And at the very beginning, when she was incredibly insistent on Harriet not marrying Mr. Martin and marrying Mr. Elton, it felt a little bit weird, and I couldn't understand why she was being so harsh towards Mr. Martin, but I attribute it to her really wanting to be successful at matchmaking and maybe even wanting to advance her friend a little bit in society. I don't know if that's true. I don't even know if she really has gotten to know Harriet beyond seeing her as a project. So Emma definitely has flaws, and I wouldn't claim to say that she is a altruistic character, but it is just hard for me to not like her. I genuinely like her. And I think a lot of the characteristics that I like about her are revealed by Mr. Knightley. Mr. Knightley, there's a whole conversation between Mr. Knightley and somebody else, I can't quite remember, but they talk about Emma, and they talk about how she is quite kind and that she's not vain despite how beautiful she is, and they say a lot of really good things about her that I feel like are more revealing than being in Emma's mind and seeing the world through Emma's eyes. I think Emma's just really a one-track mind in finding a match for her friend, and I think the biggest thing that I'm struggling is why she is so determined to do that, but it is what it is, and I'm going along for the ride. So far I'm really enjoying the relationship between Mr. Knightley and Emma. I think that it is the most we've gotten to see of a relationship within any of Jane Austen's books. I guess maybe Edmund and Fanny, you see a lot of their relationship too, but there's something about their dynamic. They feel like equals. Mr. Knightley feels like he deeply respects Emma, and Emma is not scared to disagree with him, and they just feel like really, really good friends, and I'm so excited to see their relationship develop and to see what else happens. Like I said, grew up watching Clueless. I always knew that it was inspired by Emma, but I didn't quite put it together in advance of reading this book. So again, I kind of think I know what's going to happen, but I don't know. I mean, I'm actually surprised reading this how close of an adaptation Clueless truly was and how clever the adaptation was. Not to talk about Clueless, but it was on my mind while I was reading this, everything that was happening. I was like, oh, I guess that's the picture in her locker moment and things like that. I don't know, it was just really, really cool. Obviously, they're two vastly different pieces of art, but I grew up watching Clueless, so I can't help it. Anywho, I'm gonna keep going with this. I will check back in another 100 pages or so. Hello, good morning. Excuse the crazy hair, but I am dressed in my Sunday best, aka my pajamas. My writing plans today were canceled, and it is a very gloomy, overcast day, and it's supposed to rain all afternoon. So I am feeling like finishing this book. I'm gonna try really hard. I have less than 180 pages to go, and I feel like I can do that in probably about 4 hours, because reading Jane Austen, it's quite thick, so it does take me a little bit longer. The only update that I have is that we have met Frank Churchill, and Frank Churchill is very much a person of interest for Emma. She has wanted to meet him for a long time. We have met him, and I really don't know how to feel about him. He seems a little rude. Yeah, he just seems a little rude. He's saying a lot of mean things about another character to Emma, and he barely knows Emma, and for me that's always an indication that something's not right. So that's the only update that I have. I am ready to make some tea, get extremely cozy, and just read all day. So let's get into it. Something horrible just happened. So let's talk about it. I have been reading for about 2 hours. I took a little bit of a break to make a snack for myself. It is just after 12 and I have about 80 pages left. So I'm almost done. Okay, what has happened? What has happened? This book is so dense with plot. There are so many characters and everyone just really feels like they're jumping off of the page. So like I feel a little bit confused over where to start or what I've talked about. First and foremost, I think I was last updating you that we had met Frank Churchill and we've also met a Jane Fairfax. Emma decided quite early on that she will not accept his hand if he proposes to her. Emma really does have a little bit of an inflated sense of ego. So she decided quite early on that she would not accept his hand if he proposed because she was thinking that maybe he has feelings for her. Then she decided that she's going to try to set him up with her friend Harriet. If you remember, she convinced her friend Harriet not to marry Mr. Martin. And so now she's subtly trying to get that in motion. And now there's been a little bit of a hint from Mr. Knightley that perhaps Frank actually has something going on with Jane. Now, Jane is a character that I haven't really talked about, but she is a little bit of Emma's rival. And again, Emma has perceived her to be a rival. Jane is actually quite a nice lady. She sees her as a bit of a rival because she's quite accomplished in a lot of things. And for a little bit, she thought that something was going on between Jane and Mr. Knightley. Again, that has ended. So Mr. Knightley has hinted that perhaps there's something going on between them because of something that happened at a parlor game. And another thing that has happened is that Mr. Knightley and Emma danced at a ball, and there are very subtle hints happening of Emma's feelings toward Mr. Knightley, and they're so fun to read because they're subtle / not so subtle. I feel like if you're looking for them, you will find them quite easily, but I like the slow build that we're seeing. Now, on to the horrible thing that has just happened. A bunch of the group of the cast of characters went out to have a little bit of a picnic, and Emma said something incredibly rude to Mrs. Bates, who is Jane's aunt, and essentially Mr. Knightley called her out on it. And I have to admit that reading this, I really enjoy. I know I said this at the beginning, but I just really enjoy Mr. Knightley's interactions with Emma. I think that they are probably a top couple for me. And I say all this because Mr. Knightley just called out Emma and just basically said, I am so disappointed in you. How could you do something like this? And Emma is feeling quite bad about herself, as she should, rightly so. I am genuinely enjoying seeing her character journey. I feel like her character development is fantastic, and I'm seeing her learn lessons again and again, and I'm seeing her correct her lessons. So while she did this very horrible thing, I have all of the faith that she will do right and that we will get a happy ending. I hope we get a happy ending, and I'm really excited to see where this goes. I'm also really excited because if I finish this book today, I'm gonna watch the adaptation with Anya Taylor-Joy, who is one of my favorite actors. I think she's phenomenal. I think it's time that I stop rambling because I genuinely am enjoying this. and I could talk for hours and hours, and I know that I'm not going as deep with this one as I have with other ones, but it's just because there's so much that this could actually be like 3 videos worth of content. If you are in any way intrigued, I highly recommend reading this book. It is so, so very good. Okay, I am going to stop rambling and I am going to sit in my reading chair and finish the book. I might take a little bit of a break to go on a walk. I finished it. I finished it. I finished my last Jane Austen book. Wow. And it's kind of, it's bittersweet because it means that the summer is over, and I feel like it's only, look, I know that we have pretty much all of September still left, and that is very much still summer, but I always feel like the 1st of September is very much the beginning of the autumn season, and I greatly look forward to colder days. But I'm so happy that I spent a summer with Jane Austen and that I was able to read all of her novels. It's so crazy to me. They're very quick reads. I highly recommend giving one a shot because it honestly does not take very long to get through one of these books, and they are so in line with the summer season. Let me just very quickly wrap up what happened at the end of this book. It was an incredibly satisfying ending for me, very much so. We had happy endings for all of the characters that I cared very deeply about. First and foremost, Emma and Mr. Knightley. That confession scene was quite beautiful and probably one of my favorite professions of love out of all of these books. Again, I just really, really liked the dynamic between Mr. Knightley and Emma. I really enjoyed their relationship and watching it bloom, and I loved Emma's journey so very much. And I'm so happy about that. Harriet, for her part, I was very concerned, also ended quite happily again with Mr. Martin, and I am very much pleased to have had that happen because Emma was quite distraught about how her friend would feel about her pairing with Mr. Knightley. And the last thing I will say is that Frank Churchill had a little bit of redemption. I was quite hesitant before when I was talking about him, but he very much redeemed himself, in my eyes at least, in part. I feel like he wrote a very long letter explaining his behavior, and I feel like it was a bit of a redemption. And everyone ended up really happy, and I'm so tremendously pleased with it. I can't believe I've read all of Jane Austen's novels. It's so insane. And if you've been here from the beginning, thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you feel inspired to pick up one of her books or a classic, because I know that they can be quite intimidating, but these really weren't. They were quite readable, and I was able to fly through them, as you can see. I think my favorite, of course, I can't, honestly, I can't believe that Northanger Abbey is my favorite, but it was such a fun read, and I will absolutely read that one again, especially more so in the late summer, early autumn season. I feel like it was such a fun read, and I loved the character of Catherine Morland, and I loved the writing in that book. I think my second favorite is Pride and Prejudice. Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy will forever reign supreme. I definitely think Pride and Prejudice is my second favorite. And then my third would most definitely be Emma. I loved the main character of Emma. I thought she was lovable despite her flaws, and I really enjoyed the journey that we went on with her. And of course, Mr. Knightley and her dynamic was just chef's kiss. I loved it. Then I think I would say Sense and Sensibility, and then Mansfield Park. So that is my order of my favorites. I can't believe I've read all of Jane Austen's works. I created a lovely little shelf right here with all of my Jane Austen and a random Hobbit, because I didn't know where else to put it. But I am so happy to see this shelf. And whenever I look on this shelf, I will think of this summer and how it absolutely flew by, and all of the amazing adventures that I got up to in between reading these books. And I think I'm still in a little bit of shock that I'm done. I don't think that there's anything more that I can say other than thank you so much for being here. If you've been here this whole time, if you are new here, welcome, and stick around, because there's going to be plenty more bookish content going forward. I have many plans to read all sorts of books. If you've read all of Jane Austen, or if you've just read Jane Austen, let me know down below which one your favorite is, or which one you have read. I'm so happy that you are here. Thank you so very much for watching, and until next time.